Hi, I'm Tom Lynch, and thanks for your time where I can share with you a few things about colors in my palette, which ones I choose and why. I thought that might be a little bit of help to you. Students are always confused. I mean, every workshop, the teacher has a special color that they want to have them include and so forth. So let me go through a little bit of the explanation for me and what colors I have selected in my palette and why. So first and foremost, let's understand, I am no longer an artist interested in a lot of detail. So when I'm making a painting, I'm not reporting where it is or what it's made of. So I'm taking away detail, so what I have to give back in exchange is a little brighter color and a bigger variety of color. So I have selected a brand that has high color intensity. So it's not a student grade where they kind of put in fillers and you can get a chalky or a muddy color a little bit sooner just because of the brand. So buy good quality paint. I've selected Sennelier because they're very creamy. By that I mean when you squeeze them out, they just melt into the palette versus staying in a tube shape. They have high intensity, they have a honey, which brightens up the color just a little bit more, and they do not have oxgall. So when the color does dry, it doesn't harden. I can put a light spray of water on top of the dry color, wait a little while, or I can take a palette knife and stir it up, and the color will come back even faster. So I choose a brand that I don't have to waste or throw away paint. Now you want to be careful of mixing brands. If you have a brand that has oxgall, then it's going to mix in the palette. It'll get across over there to the other brand. So watch out for that so that you don't have to waste paint. So that way it can squeeze out a lot of paint at one time, and I'm not worried about throwing it away. Now, I then choose a light, a medium, and a dark value of the brightest color. So I don't use a cadmium yellow for my bright yellow. I use a very bright, it's called lemon yellow. Wow, it's got a lot of brilliance to it. So I can dull down a color easier than I can brighten up a dull color. So choose a bright color. It's easier to gray it down should you choose. And I'm a painter, as you see by the works behind me, that uses a lot of contrast. So I want a light, a medium, and a dark value of those bright colors, so I can deal with close and far issues in a painting. So there's a general thought. Another thought, I use a color for dark called blue indanthrine. Now, all of these names and numbers are going to confuse you, so instead of writing and spelling and so forth for this little broadcast, go to my website, tomlynch.com, and you can click over to art supplies and you'll see which colors I use in a spray bottle or which colors, I use in the palette and why and mixing, and you can get the spelling and the corrections. So you're safe with Sennelier, and as far as having the oxgall, great brilliance of color. Should you want to get away from detail and realism, that might be a nice trade-off. So the placement in my palette isn't critical. A lot of artists might put them in a color wheel or warm on one side, cool on the other. I am one that's going to make a color like a green go cool by adding a blue to it. So I'll show you a couple of those little tricks along the way and some colors to watch out for, and the all-important secret move that I want you to know about in the palette. So take a look overhead in my palette and see that I have a porcelain palette, and I have that for a reason, so that when I mix color, so I'm going to bring out a nice variety of color, and then I clean out my brush and I'll mix up another color, and they will run into each other just a little bit so I can see a bigger variety of color. So I have cerulean, cobalt, and ultra for my light, medium, and dark. I have a phthalo green light and a phthalo green dark or deep for my light and dark, and a medium value green would be my hooker's green. Light, medium, and dark yellow, light, medium, and dark reds. I have a little bonus color that I use for focal points, so I refer to those as my impact colors. I have that opera rose, that phthalo blue as an impact area color, my lemon yellow, and my light green here, that phthalo green light. Those are focal point colors because it's a very bright color. I'm not worried about when I had the word phthalo. I used to be trained that phthalo colors, so the Sennelier brand, their phthalo is not going to stain, where I can still do lifting off of dry colors. So before I paint, one thing I can suggest is for you to mix a nice random variety of colors that you might use. Let's say you wanted to paint a tree. Well, put down a bunch of different colors that might be a portfolio of options to look at. And I'll share with you a neat little trick that will help you in making a better color choice. So I lay out all those colors, and notice there is not any red, so I keep opposites away from one another. If I needed a red or a brown accent for the tree trunk, I would mix it over here so that I don't infiltrate into my palette, and that's just going to turn it very, very gray or brown right away. So keeping complements, so keep blue away from orange and red away from green and yellow away from purple. Now then, an important part. Let's pretend like I was painting away over here. I had this particular color in hand and I was just brushing away and had a really good feeling, and now I wanted to use that color. The tendency is to just scoop it out. My suggestion is this: clean out your brush. So I have a bucket of water. This is a sponge here. Doesn't look like one, but it's a sponge right there. And then I refresh the color in the palette. I add a fresh mixture. Then I go over here and have a good old time painting. I might want to add a touch of the blue. Cobalt blue it happens to be. Clean out the brush, dry out the brush, refresh the color, and do this. Watch this here. I want to use that yellow again. I'm not going to touch where I have been painting. I'm going to have the dry paper and then blend in. As opposed to starting there and then blending outward, I've lost all the beauty of that bright color. And so good number of times when I'm mixing, whether it be change in values, a little bit of a purple accent, you might want to see this beautiful little purple accent, put it down there first, and then blend it in with the rest of the painting, as opposed to touching what is there to begin with. So I have all these bright colors, and I have the porcelain palette. I suggest, as I have here, a sheet of paper where I've experimented with all these colors on a blank sheet of paper. If you don't have a porcelain palette, you would like to see all these colors waiting for you as inspiration. I see it waiting for me as inspiration in my palette, and what I do, I've done this with a black sheet of paper, I get a little visualization of having that variety of color by hovering this black sheet of paper right over. And look at how this could be a fascinating look for a tree. By letting these colors run in the palette, I'm inspired to do this over here on the actual painting. Or if you have it on a blank sheet of paper, you could hover it over and go, let's do this tree, or should I do that tree? I think I want to bring a little of those purples in there, and I'll leave it right there. So that black sheet of paper can work for many, many different items. You know, I have it for, the rooftop of a barn. I could hover it over, some of my palette colors. So I would have a different set of colors. So I would lay out some reds and some oranges and some yellows. Clean out the brush, dry out the brush. Let's have that purple once again. Clean out the brush, dry out the brush. Have some of that. Let's hit that orange and yellow one more time. And so see how I'm inspired to have that variety of color for the roof, or have that variety of color for fruits and vegetables. And so this could be flowers, it could be mountains, it could be buildings. And so having that type of palette or a spare sheet of paper will inspire you to see more colors in the palette, to paint with more colors. Then I would keep a clean line between those opposites. So notice that that orange did not go into a blue, went into a green, which is okay. So there's a little quick thought for you on the idea of colors that I use in my palette and why. Bright colors, squeeze out enough paint, clean out your brush frequently, refresh the color in the palette frequently, have a visual for an inspiration of what colors to use, and you'll see an immediate result for you in the actual painting. All that's left is for you to see one of the videos where I actually put paint, the same paint, in a spray bottle, and have that be a way to make art as well. So a lot of inspiration, but let me share with you one more overhead look and share with you how this sheet of paper, this little practice sheet of paper, and all of these bright colors became inspiration for a new painting. So look at how that painting and all those colors. Had I not had this sheet of paper where these greens slowly dissolved into those purples, I wouldn't have been inspired to have those colors change, and like they have in the painting right in here. So having all these different greens, look at how it's showcased in all of the different greens and blue greens and violets in the actual painting. So what I'm trying to say is what you see here, I'll move the reds out of the way. So what you see here in the palette will be inspiration for what you'll put there in a painting. So I hope that has given you a little bit of inspiration of colors to choose. Easier to have bright colors. Mixtures, stay away from, now if you're like me and like a lot of color, stay away from Payne's Gray and Neutral Tint and Lamp Black. Find a color called blue indanthrene. Get the spelling on my website, tomlynch.com. Just a short little couple minutes where I wanted to share with you the colors I have on my palette and why, and the mixing or the blank sheet of paper, how it has a direct result in the actual painting. So if you want your paintings to look better, get some better paint in your palette. Hey, thanks for watching. See you in a workshop soon. Bye for now.